Good morning, and wow, it's the end of the week already. We can't believe it. So welcome to Friday, and it's the last day of our college week. So we are going to talk about trends today because we're all in the business of making food and selling it to people and all that kind of thing. And we want to know, what is it that people want? Now, we have people in our company and we work with trend watchers. So we work with a company called Trend Wolves. And what they do is they go around the world and they look at what's happening in different parts of the world, and they look to see what kind of trends are happening, say, in Hong Kong or India or Russia, and which one of those trends do they think is going to go global? Which one of those trends do they think is going to suddenly influence our market? And so we work with those for the future as well. We've been working with them for quite a few years now, and we've really seen the trends change. So we have, first of all, we have things called micro trends. So the micro trends are something that's just popping up here and there, and we're starting to see it in different places in the world, and it's starting to make a little buzz. So about 5 years ago, vegan was starting to make a little buzz. Now in the UK, we're always ahead. So the trend watchers often look to see what's happening in London and New York, with two of the hotspots for the new trends that are happening. And then they see them spreading out and rippling out around the world. And it's quite funny in our company, because we're always saying, we need vegan chocolate, we need organic chocolate, we need to know where the farmers are, where the beans are coming from, and all those kind of things. And at the beginning, Europe tells us, oh no, that's not really that important. But we find about 4 years later, Europe catches up, and then they're all about, we need to be promoting organic, and we need to be promoting this. And so we've already gone past that area. So now they are looking at London, they're looking at the UK to see what's happening. So vegan was a prime example. So it really started in London and Edinburgh and a few of the bigger cities. And a couple of years ago, we would have said vegan food, and all the chefs would have tutted and gone, oh God, I don't want a vegan coming into the restaurant. They're very difficult to look after. But now all of a sudden it's changed into a selling point, a marketing point, and it's really flipped on its head. So that was a trend going from something that was really small and niche, and now it's widespread. So any of the new product development that we've got coming through, when we help the bigger companies design their desserts and their chocolates, they're all asking us for vegan desserts, because that's what the consumers are asking them for. So again, that trend has come along for so many different reasons. It's come along because people are worried about the environment and they think they should be eating more plant-based food. It's come along because of animal welfare, because we want to make sure that the animals that we're eating have either been looked after well, or if you're going on the vegan way, you don't want any animals in your products at all. So it's really looking into the different. We've got a few slides, a few of them we think if we were going into business, this is what we would be looking at, because some of them seem very far-reaching at the moment. 3D printing is one of the new trends that's just coming on, but that is so baby steps at the moment. Again, we've just invested in a whole load of 3D printers, but what we can do with them, we're just finding out now. We're just beginning to see, can we make logos 3D? Can we make racetracks for some people in 3D? So it's a real niche market at the moment. But again, if we're talking together in 5 years' time, I bet you 3D printing will be absolutely everywhere. So again, it's another one of those ones to watch out for. So Claire, you've got the slides, haven't you? So Claire and I are here today, so we'll be talking through them with you. So the first one we've got is mood food. Now, this one, again, has been around for a couple of years now, but it's something that everybody is starting to talk about. When we eat food, why are we eating food? We're eating food for pleasure, and we're eating food because it's good for us, and we're also eating food because it makes us feel good. Or are we eating food because we need that extra energy boost? Or are we eating food because we're just about to go and do a workout and we want to get all the right vitamins and nutrients into our body for the workout? Or after the workout, when we're doing our cool down, are there certain things that we should be doing? And science is really changing at the moment, and they're really looking into how different foods, different nutrients, different hormones really affect our body and affect the way that we eat the food, but also the way we absorb the food. So mood food is a really, really big one. So most of you will have heard about Heston Blumenthal and his seashells. So if you went to Heston's restaurant and you ate one of his dishes, he used to bring out the seashells, and you touched the seashell. So that used to make you instantly start thinking about the seaside. And then as you were eating the dish, you actually put the seashell up to your ear and you listened to the sound of the waves and the sounds that you would get at the seaside. And then when you ate that food, you got an even more intense flavor from the fish. The same with music. Some kind of music actually makes us taste things differently. So when you hear a really harsh piece of music, you're not necessarily going to be thinking about the food, because your brain is really trying to digest all of the sound that's coming into the ears. But if you get a lovely, soft, mellow piece of music, again, that might enhance the eating experience. So people pay designers thousands of pounds to come in and think about the music that's being played in their restaurants. And also the textures, the shapes, so the cutlery that we pick up is really important. The El Roca brothers, they really look into this. So they want to know, if you're going to eat a chocolate mousse, what would feel good in your hands when you're eating a chocolate mousse? Would it be a really smooth piece of stainless steel? Would it be a flat piece? Would it be a round piece? So they do lots of experiments to see what gives you the best flavor profile when you're using that piece of cutlery. And you can do this kind of experiment for yourself at home. If you've got a friend, a partner, or whatever, get two pieces of cloth. So you want a piece of sandpaper that's really gritty, and then a piece of cloth that's really velvety and smooth. And what you do is you give the ice cream, so you give them a teaspoon of ice cream and get them to rub the gritty sandpaper while they're eating it. And they eat it, and they say what they think. Yeah, it's nice, it's vanilla, it's whatever. And then you give them the same ice cream, but they don't know this, but get them to hold a piece of velvet in their fingers when they're eating it. And so they eat the same ice cream and they're rubbing the velvet this time. And then you say to them, which one do you prefer? And you can guarantee they're always going to say the one that when they were holding the velvet, it's more vanilla-y and it's more creamy. And that's to do with the brain and the touch, so it's making you think that the food that you're eating is really much more smooth, creamy, and much nicer. So what we hold when we're eating our food is really important as well. And then the texture. So when we look at it in chocolate, everybody loves a lovely smooth piece of chocolate that's got that nice snap. But actually, if you have a really thick piece of chocolate, it takes a lot longer for your mouth to actually melt that chocolate down and get all those different flavor profiles coming through. So we've sent you some tasting discs today, if you're joining us on the tasting, and you'll see those tasting discs are very thin, because when you put that into your mouth, it's going to instantly start to melt and the flavor is instantly going to start to come through. So even what thickness your product is will really change the way that flavor goes into the mouth. So when we're chocolatiers, we're thinking, is it that I want a real chunky bar because I want something to be like thick, luxurious, and last in the mouth a long time? Or is it something sophisticated that I want to instantly start melting and feeling quite smooth? So you are seeing a lot more of the thins, the really thin bits of chocolate, and they're stacked up a bit like, can't think of the crisps, but they're stacked up in Pringles. They're stacked up like Pringles. And they are beautiful little pieces of chocolate that you put in your mouth and they melt instantly and they release the raspberry flavor or the chocolate flavor. So it's very important. And then on the bottom there, you see we've got those ice creams. So the ice creams, again, when you eat, your mood is influenced by color. So, if we want something really energizing, we're looking for zingy colors. So we're looking for the yellows, the greens, and things like that. If we're looking for something more settled, something a bit more moody, then we're looking for the browns and the creams and colors like that. So again, when you're designing your plate of food, it's something to think about. It can really start the mind working before we've even got to the flavor. Because we all know, especially in this Instagram world, we all eat with our eyes before we've even tasted anything. How many times have you taken a picture of a plate of food and then said, that's amazing, and we haven't even eaten it yet? We've just looked at it and we've made the decision. So how we focus on something and how we look at something is really important. So we've come up with a couple of concepts that you could do. So again, Natasha will send all of these recipes at the end of the live stream. And the first one we wanted to do was we wanted something really comforting. So if we think of winter afternoons or after a Sunday lunch or something like that, when you're relaxing, you're sitting down, you're enjoying the company. Hopefully we'll be able to enjoy more company soon. But you know, when you have those big family meals and you're all together, and then afterwards you're going to sit down in front of the fire and snuggle up and watch a film. For that, I don't want something that's going to give me loads of energy and wake me up, because that's not the mood I'm looking for. So for that one, we've designed a chocolate mousse. So this one is a chocolate mousse. And if you see, it's a beautiful milk chocolate mousse. And then we filled it with a lovely caramel inside. So you've got some of the most light flavors in this country, which is the caramel, the chocolate. And then on top, we've done a hazelnut praline cream. So it's a white chocolate and praline cream, which is really lovely again. But all those flavors, they're really warming and they're really nice. So they're really, really indulgent. But again, at the end of eating this, you wouldn't necessarily feel like getting up and running a marathon. So I just thought I'd show you some of the decorations from yesterday that Mark did. So these ones were the cocoa butters with the splodge on the middle. And again, just a really thin piece of chocolate on the top there with that little bit of cocoa butter really makes that dish look quite nice and quite luxurious. And then the other one we've got is one that Mark did, again, the feathers. So if you can see there, we've got the little quenelle of the hazelnut cream on top, and then we've got those beautiful little feathers. Because when you've got something like this as well, we don't need loads of decoration on there. That glaze is decoration itself. Again, when we spoke about glazing in the week, we spoke about the fact that we could use a ganache. So this is a ganache, and in this ganache, I've added equal quantities of the chocolate and the cream, but then I've also added in some butter, and that butter's given me the nice shine on here, and it's also made it a bit thinner, so I've got a nice coating, because when you look at the dessert, there's actually not very much glaze around it, because we don't want it to be too sickly. Now, if I'd put one of those super high shine glazes on there, which is really popular at the moment, but they're really sweet. To get that beautiful high shine, we really need glucose in there, we need condensed milk in there, and so the actual amount of sugar in that glaze is quite intense, and that often makes the actual thing that we're eating very sweet, and we don't want that. We want something that's nice and mellow and tasty, so that's why that chocolate glaze comes in much more better for that reason. So that's our comfort dessert. And I know it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, but I'm sure you could all eat that already. I could. You can see what we're eating at the weekend. And then this one is our zingy dessert. So again, I've used the same mousse. So the mousse that you will have on the recipe is a pastry cream mousse. So again, it's quite soft and melts really easily in the mouth, really creamy mousse. And for this one, though, we want to enliven the taste buds. So what we've got here is on the very bottom, we've got a pineapple and ginger jelly. So pineapple and ginger, both of those are very good for us. So the ginger is very good for our stomachs, for digestion, to help us digest. So again, you know, after we've eaten something, we don't want to feel really heavy. So that ginger is going to help the foods break down in the stomach and move through. The pineapple, again, is a really nice awakening flavor, but also pineapple's quite difficult sometimes to set in a jelly because it's got the bromelain in there, which is an enzyme that breaks down food. So again, this pineapple that we're eating is going to help us digest afterwards. It's going to help us break down the food. But I've set it with gelatin. So of course, gelatin is a protein and the enzyme actually breaks down proteins. So I need to make sure if I'm ever trying to make a jelly out of kiwi, pineapple, papaya, or anything like that, they all include that enzyme, that I cook it. So I had to boil the pineapple puree to actually kill the enzyme. So again, we've got a lovely zingy jelly at the bottom there. And then we've got our milk chocolate mousse. And then on top of there, I've put a yuzu and white chocolate crème. So again, that yuzu is just full of like really bright flavor, and it really helps to cut through the chocolate mousse that we've put underneath. So again, when we eat this dessert, we're not going to feel heavy. We're going to feel like we could eat another maybe. And then on top, we've just finished it off with a mango and lime compote. So again, nice and fruity, great flavors, and then the lime zest there is really zesty. So that whole dessert is going to be like an explosion of flavor in your mouth. So it's not something that you're necessarily going to feel like you want to go and sit down in front of the fire afterwards. I'm going to want to go and jog around the block. So it's a really nice dessert. But again, one of the big trends at the moment is the takeaway. And Claire's going to talk about that a bit more, I think, later. But these desserts, again, work really well if we wanted to put it into takeaway containers, because it's really nicely layered. It looks great. It looks appealing. It could be a sharing pot, so it's a bigger pot, and I've got 2 spoons on top. And then the other thing, again, people are really looking at their packaging and the textures of their packaging and how their packaging feels as well. So packaging is a whole new area that we're really looking into. So is our packaging sustainable? Is our packaging ethical? Because if you're starting up a brand today, you've really got to think about that a lot more than we did, say, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was more about the color, and it was more about how vibrant it was and how eye-catching it was. Now we've gone 360. So now we're often finding packaging that's really expensive, you know, like Chanel or Cartier or people like that are using recycled packaging, because that's what the consumer wants. We want to know that things aren't going to waste. So when you start thinking about your business and you start thinking about what am I going to pack it in, you have to think about that story as well, because all of the business comes under scrutiny these days. So that's our mood food and the start of the trends. So I'm going to move them across, and I'm going to hand over to Claire, who's now going to talk about, is it you, Claire? Yeah, healthy indulgence.
Okay, so healthy indulgence is probably my favourite trend at the moment. So I'm going to tell you a secret, is that I'm actually, whilst I work here full time, I'm also doing a master's degree in clinical nutrition. So I don't get out much, I just eat chocolate and study. But what this trend does is it looks at sort of healthier chocolate experiences. So it's about people don't just want to eat chocolate just for the sake of it. We want to get something more from it. So from all the products around us in the supermarkets, in the grocery stores, wherever we go now, we're looking for what benefit does that do for me. So we all know that the food that we eat gives us the energy to carry out our daily activities. But now we're looking for more than that sometimes. We want to know, what is this food going to do for me? Is it, like Julie said, is it going to give me energy? Is it going to make me feel alive? Is it going to chill me out? Is it going to give me a boost of energy to go and do sport? So this trend really encompasses a lot of that, but looking at the health side. So this has been done a lot in sport already. So athletes will eat a certain way so that they can perform in a certain way. And I suppose that sort of development and all the information that we've learned from athletes has now come across into sort of mainstream eating processes, let's say. So when we go out in the supermarkets now, you see lots of protein bars, you see sort of added benefits. We're looking for all these sorts of things in the supermarket, which means that sort of the general population is looking for more from their food. So one good thing about this is you guys are now going to get to taste some stuff that we've made for you. So what we've got made is these are buckwheat bars, and here we have some almond and apricot balls. Now, If we start with the balls, hopefully, for those of you that signed up to receive them, hopefully they've got you in one piece, at most 2 pieces. We hope that they've arrived okay. So if we start with the almond balls, what we've done here is, this is a really simple way to make a kind of a healthier confectionery, and you can make it as healthy or not healthy as you like. So again, these are in the supermarket. So there's a brand called Deliciously Ella, and they have these balls. There's a few others coming along now. They have these balls in the supermarket. They're about £3 for a ball, which to me seems quite expensive.
And they taste terrible compared to yours, Claire.
Yeah, because they have to last a long time to be in the supermarket. It means that they have to be processed in a slightly different way. And it's just not as fresh. Like, eating fresh is best. So I'm sure on the first day that the Deliciously Ella balls are made, they taste really good. But by the time that we get them in the supermarket, they're not so great. So what we've done in here is we've got dates, and we use dates as a sort of binder. So dates are full of really good fibre. We've got some natural sugars in there. And a sort of sweetness that brings things together. It gives a sort of fudgy texture. Then we've got almonds. So we've used blanched almonds, but you don't have to. You can use them with the shell on. Gives you a bit of extra fibre. So almonds are really good in terms of fibre and protein. So it's a really good plant-based source of protein. Then we've got apricots. We've used some nice dried apricots, but we've gone for the ones that have still got a bit of moisture, so they've got a bit of squidge to them. That's a technical term. And with apricots, you've got lots of vitamins. So you've got vitamins A and C and E. So again, we're giving our body everything that it needs to perform at its maximum. Then what we've used together, once we blitz those down, and again, like Julie said, you'll get the recipes for these, so you can create these. And I will just say, this is a really good base recipe for you to then tweak and change it. Nuts.
I just got to say, there's nuts in there.
There's nuts in there. Nuts. There's nuts in both these products. If anyone has a nut allergy, please don't eat these. There's nuts in everything now. So we've got the apricots, we've got the almonds, we've got the dates. What we've used to stick these together is chocolate, because we love chocolate. So we've used chocolate, and then we've used the hazelnut praline. Now, in the balls, we've used the Cacao Mexique chocolate. Now, the reason for that is that it's got, the chocolate itself has got these like hazelnutty tones to it. And even though it's a dark chocolate, there's a kind of creaminess to it once it's mixed with other things. So we've used some of the hazelnut praline with some of the chocolate. Now, these two products, if you go onto the Chocolate Academy, the UK Chocolate Academy website, Julie and I did a live stream in January. We called it Veganuary because we were supporting the massive Veganuary trend. So we did our own sort of chocolate version, and we made these two on there. So if you want like a tutorial of how to make it, you can have a look at that. Otherwise, it's super, super simple. You blitz up the dates, the almonds, and the apricots until they're like a crumb, and then you melt the chocolate and the praline together, and then you just mix it up.
They're eating it, Claire. They think it's very yummy.
Yes, that's what we like. As I said, it's a really good base sort of recipe. So you can change the apricots out for cranberries, for raisins, for any other fruits. You can add spices in. So you could add a bit of ginger if you wanted a bit of pep. I've done some with sort of freeze-dried raspberries and saffron before, and that works really nicely. So there's kind of no rules to this. Then the only thing I've done lastly is just roll it like a truffle, just hand rolled like a truffle with the Mexique chocolate on the outside. And again, it gives you that indulgence. So as I said, the trend is healthy indulgence. We've got some really healthy, lovely ingredients. We've made it more indulgent by adding some praline and some chocolate and bringing it all together in the process. So it's a really nice sort of soft bite, but you get the nuttiness, you get the chocolatiness. You also get some health benefits, which is the most important thing. So I'm glad you're liking it. We can go on to the second one now, which is the buckwheat bars.
Gary's already eaten his.
Oh, I can't believe it. Okay, so buckwheat is one of my favourite grains because it's gluten-free. And it's so versatile. It's also one of these sort of ancient grains. So we're very reliant on wheat and corn throughout the globe. And it's to the detriment of some of the other grains, which hold not more, but different nutritional properties. So what we as a whole globe have done is we've learned that wheat gives us, that we tolerate wheat well and we tolerate corn well. And it's a really good way to get carbohydrates into us. But what we've done is we've produced it on such a mass scale that it's knocked out some of the other grains and things like that. And our health is down to diversity. So the more diverse range of food that we can eat, the healthier we will be. So Julie and I are on a mission at the moment to try and eat 30 to 40 different fruits and vegetables each week. So it sounds like quite a lot, but when you actually start making a list, it's achievable. And it does push you to try new things and try different things.
I think it was achievable, Claire, but you've upped it to 60.
Yeah.
Now it's not achievable.
Move the goalpost. But no, there's a lot of research now, and a slight tangent, I'll come back, I promise. But there's a slight tangent of like all the research into your microbiome and everything like that goes on in your gut and all your gut bacteria. To be able to break down and get all those vitamins and minerals out of the food that you eat, we need a really healthy microbiome. So by eating a really diverse range of foods, we keep our little gut bacteria happy and we get health benefits from it.
Ian's not playing right. He says 29 grapes and an apple.
Good effort. Okay, so our buckwheat bars. This is buckwheat, and this is puffed buckwheat. So buckwheat itself is a really tiny grain, and it's actually shaped like a heart. There's another theory, again, a slight tangent. There's another theory that the shape of the food that you eat actually relates to what it does to your body. So if things are shaped like a heart, they're often really healthy for your heart. So, you know, like walnuts are shaped a bit like your brain. They have really good properties for your brain. So you can think about that. I promise Julie's Julie's not so sure.
Macadamia nuts are good for the brain, Claire.
Yes, but they're not shaped like a brain. Okay, so in our buckwheat bars, we've got the puffed buckwheat. We've got another amazing thing in there. We've got something called an aronia berry. So aronia berries, again, they're quite an old berry, and so they were originally in sort of North America, but now they grow really well in Wales. We've got, I kind of know someone in Wales that grows them, and they're a really dark purple fruit. So the great thing about purple fruits and purple vegetables is that they're packed full of antioxidants and something called anthocyanins. So what these do is they go into our body and they kind of scavenge any bad stuff going on in a very, very simplistic way. So they're really great for us. So we should eat lots of purple fruits. It will make us healthier and it will make us live longer. So we've got the puff buckwheat, the aronia berries, then we've got some pecan nuts, because pecans taste amazing, and they've also got some really good healthy fats in there. We've got some coconut flakes, because coconut's great. And again, we've got some healthy fats, but some different flavors. It's a nice light flavor. And by mixing this all together then with, again, with the chocolate and with the praline paste as our sort of base and our glue, what it creates is a really light snacking bar. To make it a little bit more indulgent, we've sort of half dipped into the chocolate. So you've got a nice sort of line across here to show the chocolate. Question, Julie?
Yes. Do you buy buckwheat ready puffed, or do you puff it yourself like popcorn?
I am a bit of a cheat and I buy it ready puffed. So I buy it in Holland and Barrett. They've got the organic gluten-free puffed buckwheat, but you can get the non-puffed one in like Tesco's and everywhere else. So you sort of have to have a little look. I take a long time shopping because I'm reading all the labels and looking for new ingredients, but you can find it in all the supermarkets. Is that another question?
Oh, somebody from the Culinary Clinic Limited said, my kids are loving the chocolate and I can't get a look in. Homeschooling.
But these are great things to make with kids, because these are like a grown-up version of Rice Krispie cakes. You put so much more in there, so you've got your dried fruit and your nuts and stuff. So you've elevated the sort of health properties of it. So again, there's a trend called alibi eating, where we make this alibi that it's healthy for us, therefore we can eat it. Well, this does actually have some really good health properties quantities in there, and it tastes good, I think. So hopefully you will think that too. So some other things, whilst you're still having a little munch, that we wanted to show you in relation to this sort of healthy indulgent trend is the concept of panning. Now, panning is where we coat products in chocolate, or you can do it in sugar. So it's like your sort of your chocolate coated raisins and things like that. So what we've got here, we've got some macadamia nuts coated in dark chocolate. Now, as Julie said, macadamia nuts are really good for our brains. It's got lots of selenium in there, and we have to eat selenium to keep our brains working. So they're in good amounts in macadamia nuts and in Brazil nuts. So that's a good excuse to coat some macadamia nuts in chocolate. And then here we've got some of our dried apricots, and we've coated them in the gold chocolate. So again, it makes snacking just a little bit healthier, you know, as long as the chocolate's not too thick. So with the healthy indulgence line, what we're looking at is making our products have a health, not necessarily have a health claim, but have some of those healthy ingredients in it. Okay. Right. Does anyone have any more questions? These are for me and Julie when we finish to celebrate. So I'll just pop these over here. Okay, so the next trend is to look at something called instant luxury. Now, this is something massive at the moment. So because of lockdown, everyone is everyone is ordering takeaways, and we want stuff now. We're not prepared to wait. So it's all about being able to order things on our mobile devices and get it straight away. So like I said, we don't want to wait. We want something now. We want a premium something now. We don't want a second-rate product. We want like the best of the best. So like Julie showed you with the Energizer dessert, it's all about creating takeaway products that are elevated, and even thinking about how your typical sort of sit-down experience can be translated into a takeaway function. So, like Julie has these here. So, I believe in Paris there's a pastry shop, and it's called Michelak Takeaway. So, Christophe Michelak has done takeaway options where basically you get your dessert in a takeaway vessel. So you'd have a complete sort of choux bun with all the layers, with all the different elements in there, but to take away for your lunch. So again, with this whole pandemic experience, we're now thinking about, well, I'm going to go and get my luxury something or other, and I'm going to take it away with me so that I can be safe. But we still want that luxury experience. We nowadays treat food as a luxury and as a way of making ourselves better, feel comforted, or to just sort of create an experience with either our significant other, if we have one, or our families and our friends. So it's a case of now in lockdown, we're having sort of Zoom dinners and things like that. It's things like this that can create that special experience. So I'm just going to show you some bits. So what we've done is we've thought about how to elevate certain things. So this is a really simple way. So here, I've baked some cookies. So you can see I've got a really nice cookie. And here you can see, so I've got a cookie. I've done a ganache layer. So it was actually just one of the ganaches, made these chocolate discs, okay, and put them on the top. So what we've done is actually create a really sort of stylish and sophisticated cookie with extra elements on there that then enhance that experience and create that experience from what was a simple cookie. Okay, so we've got those. So that's I'm all about cookies as well. Any excuse. Then here we've got the lollipops. So we showed you the lollipops a couple of days ago. And again, by adding these transfer sheets here, the texture sheets, and then our sort of range of inclusions on the top, what it does is it really elevates something. So we've gone from thinking about this was a truffle shell, and then we've dipped it in the chocolate and put this texture sheet on the top. What it does is it really elevates it and takes it away from its sort of original product. So where someone that would think about buying a truffle, we're now thinking about a whole new audience that might want a sort of a grown-up lollipop. Also obviously absolutely fine for children, but we're elevating it and adding a different audience in for our product. Then
they're loving the products, Claire.
Good. I like feeding people, makes me happy.
We're feeders, aren't we?
Yeah. So then again here, we're thinking about our sort of traditional chocolates. So we've got a small range of bits and pieces. So those out of the way. Right, so what we've got here is, so these are our chocolates, our sort of standard chocolates. But what we've managed to do is we've achieved a really high shine. So by tempering our chocolate really well, by making sure our molds are really clean, maybe using some alcohol in there to just get the perfect shine, what we've done is, again, we've elevated that chocolate experience. We've made it indulgent just by thinking, wow, they're so shiny, like that's incredible. We haven't had to use anything special to do it. We've just followed all the basics exactly right, and we get our super shiny chocolates.
Just your special techniques, Claire.
I'm not going to tell you it was a fluke. Then these ones that we've got here, these we've used the alcohol on them. If I raise it up a bit, it's a bit better. So here we've used our creative powders, so our bronze and our gold creative powders, mixed with the alcohol and then just splattered into the mold using a sponge. Again, what it does is it creates this sort of unique pattern and this really indulgent and really sophisticated sort of finish to it. So it's lifting our chocolates up. We've gone on with the makeup brushes, with our shimmer powders, with the creative powder. And what it does is as you can see, it elevates the chocolate to another level. So when people are wanting that luxury experience, and how we create that premium experience is by thinking about our techniques, by thinking about doing our techniques really well, and then by adding these little extras. So by adding a bit of the creative powder, we're really bringing a different style into our chocolates. It also means, from a business point of view, that you might be able to charge a little bit more, which is never a bad thing. So, some other ones to show you, and again, to round off what we've been doing during the week. Here we've got our dipped chocolates. So again, we're able to just see the difference. So just by using the gold creative powder in the alcohol, and then by using a nozzle, we've dipped it in while the chocolate was wet. Again, a star nozzle here, and then just a straight piece of plastic dipped into the alcohol with the gold. It makes such a difference. And here we've got the texture sheet and the transfer sheet. Again, it gives a shine, it gives the texture and the pattern. It creates something a bit more special. Our fork work still looks nice, but in comparison, these ones I would suggest look a little bit more premium.
And more eye-catching.
Yeah, they jump out at you. Then also at the back here, we've got the stamps. So Mark showed you how to use the wax seal stamps. So by using the cool spray on this and by stamping it into some chocolate, let it set and then brush it afterwards, you get these really, really beautiful wax seal. And now a wax seal, again, has always been a sign of importance, of significance. So people in prominent positions used to have these wax seals. And so it was, if you received a letter with a wax seal on, it was always something really, really important, either an invitation to a really special event or something to be excited about. So having a wax seal, and again, you could potentially put these onto your chocolates, create something a bit more luxurious. It just opens up the doors of creativity to you.
What day, there's a question, are there any tutorials for these? What day did we do the dipped chocolates?
I think we did the dipped on day 1, maybe. is it the level 2 in the afternoon?
Yeah. I think if you go back and have a look on the tutorials, we did them at the beginning of the week. So you'll find how to do them there.
Yeah. But there's loads of tutorials out there, and we've got all the tutorials that we've done. So we've done lots of live streams throughout December and January, and they're all free to watch and available on our website. So we stream them all through YouTube, but you have to have a link to watch it. And I say, just by signing up, you get that link and you can watch all of them. It's completely free. There's lots of different tips and tricks and stuff. The ones that we did in December and January were just an hour long, so you get lots of information in a short space of time. Now, one last thing. In terms of instant luxury, we've got here a range of our chocolate cups. Now, when I say chocolate cups, it sounds a bit boring and a bit dull, but actually you can really use these to think about the takeaway market. So I love these ones. These are my favourite. These are little espresso cups. So you can actually make like a sort of a little coffee dessert in there. And then also in terms of environmental sustainability, we can eat this cup. And then we don't have to think about packaging and stuff like that. So it's a really great way to think about the sort of the whole picture. So we're thinking not only about the dessert that we're making, we're thinking about packaging, we're thinking about the environment and sort of sustainability of things. And we're thinking about being creative in what we're making. These cups are great as well, so you can get quite a big dessert into these Angelo cups. And again, these rectangular cups, you're going to see these featured in some of our work in the future because they're just so nice. They're quite thin, but they're using a 64% dark chocolate, so they actually taste really good. It's not like your sort of advent calendar chocolate. It's really good, tasty chocolate, so you're going to want to eat the cup at the end as well. So I hope that gives you a few ideas and sort of covers the idea of the healthy indulgence and the instant luxury and how we're looking for health benefits within our food. So when you're making desserts, think about the ingredients and could you squeeze something maybe a bit healthier in there? Could you reduce the sugar down? Can you try and get some more vitamins and minerals in there some way? And then the instant luxury, if you're doing a takeaway product, think about, is it premium and is it exciting? What sort of packaging am I using? How can I really elevate this takeaway so that it really creates an experience for this customer? So as you can see here on the slide, that's the Michelin takeaway, which actually looks really similar to Julie's, but Julie's doesn't have that big gap of air at the top. So
mine's much more value for money.
Yeah, Julie's customers would be so much more excited. And then also on the other side, you've got the Voila, the premium instant coffee. So again, it's not just about something instant, it's about that premiumization, that luxury element to it. So I will say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you over the week. And I'm going to go and get back in the chat room whilst Julie comes and talks to you about a few more different trends.
Claire's much better on the slides than I am. That's why you saw the slide last. Yeah, so you did get some other tasting bits as well. I've been looking on the chat, though. Lots of people have already eaten everything, so you'll just have to listen. They couldn't wait, Claire. It was too good. So we're going to look at some of the different chocolates as well, because when we've been doing the chocolates over this week, we've been doing a lot of the blended and the core range of chocolates, so the Callebaut chocolates. But you can also get chocolates that come from different countries, different regions. If we go... if we think about the bean to bar, we have the equatorial belt, and we have countries all around that equatorial belt that can actually produce chocolate. And when they produce their chocolates, they all taste slightly different. So we've got some little chocolate squares that we were going to give you to taste. And these are all origin chocolates. So when we think about milk chocolate, we might think, oh, milk chocolate's boring, you know, like milk chocolate's just Cadbury's chocolate or something like that. It's not sophisticated. Well, milk chocolate can be absolutely wonderful. You know, there's lots of different flavor notes in there. Depending on how we put those ingredients in there will depend on how we get the flavors. So a really caramelized milk chocolate often has the caramelized milk powders and sugars put in together to give you that lovely flavor. But if we look at chocolates and we want the real flavour, where they come from, we can look at the different regions. So you've got one there from Ghana and you've got one there from Papua New Guinea. Now, they're different percentages. So our Ghana here is a 40%, and our Papua New Guinea is a 35%. So that's saying it's got 35% cocoa mass in there, and then the other ingredients in there are the milk powders and the sugars. But the trend is going more towards darker milk chocolates. So the Ghana is a 40%. So that's got 40% cocoa mass in there, so it's giving you a darker colour. So if you held those two bits of chocolate next to each other, you would see one was lighter and one was darker. But that's not all that's different. They're different countries. So when these beans were grown and when they were dried and all those kind of things, they will have different flavours being developed in there. So if we go for the Papua New Guinea first, the Papuassi. So in Papua New Guinea, when they dry their beans, they dry them over fires because they have a very humid and inclement climate and they have a lot of moisture. So they can't sun-dry their beans. So if you get any chocolate from Papua New Guinea, it doesn't matter whose brand or whether it's a dark chocolate or a milk chocolate, it always has these smoky hints to it. So I want you to try that, let it melt in the mouth, and you start to get these smoky hints, and you're like, oh my God, that's really different. That's something I wasn't expecting. We find a lot of chefs love this chocolate because it's quite savoury as well, and you can think of all sorts of different things you can do with it. It pairs really well with honeys, whiskies, peaty flavours. We've had some chefs that have actually roasted it in the oven and then they've served it with scallops. So they've served it with a savoury dish as well to add that something different into their dish. So have we got some people trying it, Claire?
Yeah, we got, oh wow, it's smoky.
Wow. Good. But it's an origin chocolate. That smokiness will be different every season because if you think about it, this is a natural product. So, you know, the beans that grow from one season will have slightly different flavours because of the weather that's happened that season. And so if they really needed to dry these over fires because it was really wet, you would get a much more prominent smoky flavour. Sometimes we get a bit less smoky flavour coming through. And some people say a more cheesy lactic flavour coming through. And again, we all taste totally differently. So it would depend on, you know, what did you have for breakfast? What did you have for lunch? All those different things before you started tasting that chocolate. Because if you're a smoker, if you're not, you will taste things differently. So a good time to taste chocolate is 11 o'clock. So I think we're all right, actually. I think
we're almost
there.
Yeah.
So if we're doing proper tastings in the factory across the road, we do a tasting at 11 o'clock or a tasting at 4 o'clock. And the reason for that is when you come into work in the morning, you might have had a cigarette if you're a smoker before you came in, and then you come in and you get your cup of coffee. And all of those things affect your taste buds. It's fine, but if you're trying to do a tasting, it's not so fine. Also, you might just have had breakfast, and so you're feeling really full. So again, your taste buds aren't that alert. So by the time we get to 11 o'clock, we're starting to think about lunch. We're starting to get a little bit hungry. So our flavours that we're going to get in our mouth, we're going to be much more receptive to different flavours going on there. And the same in the afternoon. So again, straight after lunch is not a good time to taste anything. So you could think about this when you're doing your menu tastings as well. If you've got new desserts or new dishes, it's a good time to try it when you're coming just before lunch or just before your night service. They're great times to actually try and get the whole flavour coming through. So that was our Papuassi. The next one we're going to go to is our Ghana. And the Ghana is a 40%, but this time it's beans from Ghana have a lot different, and it's more like an galaxy, I would say. It's got lovely caramel, this milk note, and quite strong chocolate flavour because we've got that 40% cocoa mass in there. So again, a better colour. So when I'm using it for mousses or for ganaches, that kind of thing, you're going to keep the colour more in the Ghana one than you are in the Papuassi. So yeah, have a try of that one. But this one as well has got nutty flavours to it, you know, that caramel nutty. And you can see on the bags, it gives us a bit of a hint about the different flavours that are in there. So the Ghana, it's from the Forastero beans. So the Forastero beans are grown in Ghana and the Ivory Coast, and they're one of the, what should we call them, the biggest beans that we use in the world. We produce the most Forastero beans in the world. When we change the beans and we go to a Carrillo or a Trinitario, we get more fruity notes coming through and more acidic notes, different flavors. So these Forastero are really good, robust beans. They're really nice chocolate flavors. So the other two that you've got that we're going to try are dark chocolates. And they've come from different plantations. So with these ones, so the first one I've got there is the Madrefolo. And then the second one I've got there is the Alto El Sol. So the Madrefolo is from Madagascar and the Alto El Sol is from Peru. So the Madagascan chocolates are beautiful chocolates. Again, you know, like you start to think about chocolate more as wine now, because again, it didn't matter the brand. If I'm going to go for a chocolate, my favorite is Peruvian. Claire's favorite is from Haiti, which we don't have at the moment, but that's a shame. So I get to eat all my chocolate. And she actually eats it as well now. But we did have one bag of Haiti left, and she's hidden it. We can't find it. But these chocolates have real characteristics and they have real flavor profiles. So Peruvian flavor profiles is red berries, red plums, those kind of things, raisiny flavors. Whereas the Madagascan is more yellow fruits. So mango, passion fruit, lime, tamarind, those kind of flavors come through on the Madrefolo. So if you start with the Madrefolo, it's a 65, both of these 65% cocoas. So that means 65% cocoa mass and the rest is sugar. But when we're looking at chocolates and we're looking at the beans, we're looking to see, what do we think? This could have been a 70%, but actually they thought the flavors came through and melted better in the mouth if it was a 65%. So that's why they've done that. So remember, the percentage isn't anything to do with quality. It's just telling you the recipe, whether you've got 70% cocoa mass and a 30% sugar, or a 65% cocoa mass and the rest is sugar. So we're trying that one. Sometimes the Madrefolo, it gets me here. It's like a bit like opal fruits. It tingles down the side here. And as that flavor melts, you will get different flavors coming through. So first of all, you might get chocolate, and then you might get a bit of fruitiness. And then as it goes down, you might get a bit of the tamarind. So these chocolates, they keep on developing. Even after you've finished eating them, you will still get that flavor coming through. And so that's why chocolatiers find the origin and the plantation chocolates really interesting to play with, because that one pairs beautifully with lime. You know, you put that chocolate with lime and it really comes alive. And again, with the one from Peru, the Alto El Sol, again, that one's really nice with limes and passion fruits. So do we like the Madrefolo?
Yes. So the fruitiness is coming through, and also maybe a bit woody.
Yes. Yeah. So that's more the tamarind flavors coming through at the back.
Yeah.
So again, it's really funny. Sometimes you put it in and you get, wow, that's fruity. But then as it develops, you're getting all these other flavors coming through, which is what's exciting about chocolate. So the Peruvian one, the Alto El Sol, I'm really lucky. I went there, last year or the year before? Last year was COVID still, wasn't it? So it was the year before. Yeah. So just before, I went in November to Peru, and we actually went to this plantation and we saw the beans growing and we saw the environment around there. And it's in the national forest in like the Amazonian area. You have to go down one of the side shoots of the Amazon to get to the actual plantation. It's amazing. And when you get there, they are in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's a few roads, but not a lot. And there's 8 different farming families that actually farm this land. And it's really nice. There's husband and wife teams, and there's a couple that's just ladies actually farming the land. And they come together as a cooperative to harvest the beans and to actually sell the beans. And these beans are really special. They're beautiful. So they are a Carrillo bean from the Amazon and a Trinitario bean. So both of those flavors are really fruity and they're really special beans. So again, when they ferment these beans, the guy that looks after the fermentation, he's been doing that all his working life. He is the man that knows when these beans have been fermented to just the right ferment so that we get that beautiful acidness coming through there. He's now training somebody else up because he's now about 60 years old and he will want to retire one day, but they still need that expertise in there. But it's very traditional around there. You know, he is the master and now he's got his apprentice and that's it. Nobody else messes. with the beans. They are the people that look after it. But it was really, really good to see. And when you eat these beans straight after they've been fermented, the fruitiness in there is like, wow, it's great. So what are we thinking to the Outwell Sol?
Just really, really nice. Also a question, so the tamarind from the Madrefolo, do you think that's because it's a byproduct of the tamarind grown within the cocoa plantations?
No, unfortunately. It would be lovely if it was. But it's grown in the same area as the tamarind. So the soil and the nutrients and the trees are getting the flavour from the nutrients in the soil. So as if it's a good rainy season, they've had the right amount of rain, that soil's really moist and the nutrients are going through really well. We get really strong flavours, but the tamarind would share the same area. So the tamarind flavours are coming through there. I mean, some people say if you plant a banana tree next to the beans, we get the flavour of banana. But if you think about the soil and you think about the roots, the flavour of banana isn't there. The flavour of banana is in the fruit as it comes off. So the actual root systems get the same nutrients, and that's sometimes why they share the flavours. Yes. So that's our chocolates. But again, if we're talking about the instant luxury and the premiumisation, this is where you can premiumise your product. And this is where in your marketing, you're telling the story of your product as well. You'll be talking about the bean varieties. You'll be talking about the altitude of where the chocolate comes from, even the farmers. Because again, that whole marketing story, your packaging and the chocolate all goes together to make that product stand out totally differently to the one next door to it. And so that's what chocolatiers do. They really talk more about the flavours in there. If we're going for a Mars bar, we know we're going for a Mars bar because we want that instant hit of sugar and that lovely chewy texture. That's what we want from our Mars bar. We're not sitting there going over the fineness of the flavour of the chocolate or the aromas that are coming through, anything like that. You're wanting it because you're hungry, it's 11 o'clock and you want a quick fix. When we go to chocolates like this, you shouldn't just be eating it and instantly gone. You should be savouring them and you should be really thinking about the flavours that are in there and enjoying them. So again, slower eating, which is better for us, better for our digestion, and not eating huge amounts. 1 or 2 of those chocolate discs, those squares. Everybody asks us, it's one of the questions we get asked all the time, do you eat chocolate every day? Well,
Gary's more than most people.
But we do eat chocolate every day, but you are more fussy about the chocolate that you eat. So, like I say, I like this Outwell Sol. So if I'm going to eat something, this would be the chocolate that I go for. And so therefore I don't need as much chocolate. So we're not eating kilos and kilos of chocolate. I think it's always the way, because you can eat the chocolate, you don't. If somebody told you you couldn't eat it, then you'd be wanting to eat it all the time. So we're not munching it all day. Well, not all of us. Okay. So again, if we look at the genuine origins slides, you can see pureness from tree to chocolate experience. And that's exactly what you've just tried now with the different chocolates that we tried. So also other things on the market, everybody talks about single origin coffee all the time, don't they? It's a natural thing to go into a barista and he's talking about the chocolate the coffee that's come from Brazil or any of the other beautiful coffee growing regions. Well, chocolate grows in exactly the same regions as the coffee. And our process is pretty similar to the coffee process as well. When you see how they harvest the coffee, how they dry the coffee, and then how they roast the coffee, chocolate is very similar to that. But with coffee stops at the roasting bit, and then it's down to the barista, he makes the cup of coffee. But if you think about chocolate at the roasting stage, it's only just beginning its second journey. Then we have to do the processing stage. So chocolate is a lot more complicated and complex than coffee, believe it or not. So the coffee shops and baristas are beginning to see this, and you're going to see a real resurge in hot chocolates coming through. So it's not going to be the hot chocolates that we used to see, where they're 70% sugar and 30% cocoa powder. People now are looking at real hot chocolates. And we know this is coming through because we know a lot of the MPD projects that we've been doing at the moment have been to do with hot chocolates. And what can they do? And they're going to be doing exactly the same things as we've done with our ganaches. They're going to be pairing the hot chocolates with different fruits, different spices and things like that to make that whole hot chocolate area a new area. There's a company called Knoops, it's KNOOPS, and they've just launched in London. So if you're lucky enough to go onto High Street Kensington, where else are they? I think they're, I'll find out the other ones, but they've opened 4, and they're all about hot chocolate. And so if you go into their shops, they have these little clipboards on the wall. Do you want a 40% Ghana hot chocolate? Do you want a 70% Brazil hot chocolate? And so before you can even order a hot chocolate, you've got to have decided what kind of hot chocolate it is you want, so that you're getting a totally personalized hot chocolate experience. And then they're real experts at actually making the hot chocolates as well. Because again, hot chocolate, everybody thinks it's simple. I just boil my milk and I pour it onto my chocolate. No, you should never take the milk above 80 degrees. 80 degrees is the limit. We say 70 degrees is the best temperature, because if you take it too high, what you end up doing is you're burning the milk proteins and you're making the milk go thinner again. And you want those milk proteins to be nice and thick and fluffy. So you learn this if anybody's done any baristering. You know, they talk about the temperature that you should have your milk at, and it's exactly the same with the hot chocolates. And we have got coming out this year as well a ruby hot chocolate. So the real ruby hot chocolate powder is coming out. So hot chocolate is a really new, exciting world. And then you go into the ice creams again. You see lots of single origin ice creams, and again you will taste that difference. I sound like Sainsbury's, but you will taste the difference. You know, like if you buy a Peruvian single origin, or if you bought one from Brazil. Brazil's chocolates are really robust and really quite acidic and quite flavoursome. So that would come through in that ice cream as well. And then again, the single origin drinking chocolates, that's an example there. But also what's really important is the sustainability and the traceability and working with the environment. So with the Cocoa Barry brand, they are 100% sustainable, and we are going to be going forest positive, because to grow the cocoa, we need the cocoa trees to be under other trees. So we're actually planting more trees. So, you know, at the moment, it's all about deforestation. But actually in the cocoa growing regions, they are actually planting trees because they need them to actually help the cocoa trees grow. So that's a really big initiative to make sure we're planting way more trees than we actually need. So that's the forest positive. But it's also driving change within the farming areas as well. So again, if you wanted to have a look at it, Cocoa Horizons is our sustainability website. And if you go onto that, it's got all the information on there that you need. And we are also audited on it. So we can just say, oh yeah, we're doing this and we're helping the farmers, and that's all lovely. But that's not enough. So we're audited by an outside company, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Is that right? PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Yeah, PricewaterhouseCoopers. So they come in every year and they will do an audit, because we can say that we're doing this, we're helping the farmers, we're training the farmers, but are we actually? And what does training mean? You know, like you're sitting in front of this and listening to me today, but unless you actually take something away from this and actually do something, we haven't trained you, we've just told you something. So training is when you actually take something away and you actually implement it and do something with the knowledge that you've just gained. So they check that the farmers are actually not just turning up because, you know, we've said there's some training there. Are they taking it through? Are they helping their soils? Are they planting other plants in there that are going to give nitrogen back into the soil, which is going to give them a healthy biodiversity around the cocoa growing region and everything. So lots of information going on there as well. Yes. So any questions on that one, Claire?
No, we're all happy. Some people are being naughty and eating the whole fruit already.
Oh my God.
Told them to wait.
Well, that's what we're going on to now. Yes. So one of the big new launches this year, you are the first people, by the way, the people that have eaten it already, you are some of the first people in the country to try this chocolate. So this is huge. This is another revolutionary stage in chocolate. So what's happened is the whole fruit chocolate is, you know, when we have a cocoa bean and we open it, we get the pulp and we get the bean inside. But when we open that cocoa pod, there's some juice comes out of there as well. And when we break all the beans up and we put them into sacks, there's even more juice comes out. So there's a company, it's one of our companies called Caboss Natural, and what they're doing is they are harvesting the cocoa juice so that they get the cocoa pulp and the cocoa juices. But then we've also developed this new chocolate, and it's all about sustainability, and it's all about using all of the stuff that's in the chocolate. So we take that juice, the cocoa juice, and we dehydrate it, and we get the fructose, we get the fruit sugar. So when we make that chocolate, there is no sucrose in there at all. It's the sugar that's come from the cocoa juice has been put back in it to make the chocolate. So it's 100% cocoa. There's nothing else added in there, but you've got that sweetness, you've got that fruitiness, and it's really like lots of flavors going on. Now that one at the moment it was our sample, it was our trial sample. So it hasn't actually gone through to the factories to be made yet. So when it does go through to the big scale, the flavor will change slightly, but it will be on those notes, those really fruity notes. So it's very exciting. But we really do need to think about that differently. So we've had it here in the academy and we've used it, and the fructose in the chocolate reacts totally different to the sucrose. So its melting point and its caramelizing point is much lower than sugar. So we found that when we had it in our Selmy machine and we left it in there for 2 weeks, I mean, you would never do that normally, but we left it in there a long time, the fructose actually started caramelizing even at 40 degrees. So it's something new that we're really learning to play with, and we're going to be doing lots more experimentation with it, but I think it's very exciting. And this whole no wastage. So, you know, like we're really looking at how can we cut down on the carbon footprint? How can we cut down on our wastage? Well, now that cabosse, the outside of it as well, we're drying the outside of the cocoa shell and we're grinding that down and we're making like a fiber. So it's not really a flour, but it is a fiber. And we're looking at how that can become a filler. So at the moment, we're using chicory root a lot, inulin, in a lot of the vegan recipes because it adds in a lovely, luxurious, fatty feel when you're not using the butters. But equally, this cocoa flour can be used to add nutrients, can be added into different things to add different flavor. But at the moment, we can't call it a food because there's never been a cocoa pod or cocoa husk food before. So that's having to go through all the European food agencies and the FDA in America, because until we get the okay, we can't call it a whole food. We can't call it a real food yet. So at the moment, it's something that's in development. And the other thing we're doing with the cocoa pods is we're actually making them into something called biochar, which is something that we can put into the soil to help give the nutrients back into the soil. And we can also feed it to cows. We find this one a bit amazing, Claire, don't we? Yeah. We feed it to cows because it's something that's, you know, like a fodder that you can feed to cows. And actually, the amount of methane that they put out is much less after they've eaten this biochar. So it's actually helping the stomach break down the gases. And so therefore is helping the CO2 emissions going into the world. Who knew? But anyway, so cocoa is a very amazing product and it can be used for all sorts of different things. But what we're making sure is that we use the whole fruit. And that's where the names come from for the chocolate. So it's whole fruit chocolate. And again, I don't think we're going to be seeing that here till beginning of the summer, middle of the summer.
So the juice that they dehydrate to make the sort of sugar that goes into the chocolate, would that normally have been wasted? No. So again, I was lucky enough to go to Brazil. So in Brazil, what they do is when they turn the beans out, they have them on this like V-shape piece of wood, and they have caskets at the end, and they catch that. And so they drink it a bit like coconut water. They call it cocoa honey. And so, you know, they would use that as a drink for the kids. Now, not everywhere that happens. It does get wasted in a lot of areas. But there's a lot of interest, again, in the cocoa juice and the cocoa pulp for making ice creams, drinks, ganaches. And again, we know through MPD that's going on, there's quite a few big companies looking at using the cocoa juice in their drinks. So again, in the, I don't know, summer, autumn time, you'll see cocoa juice coming out in different drinks. You'll see it's an ingredient on the back of the drinks. So that's another area that we've never had before. And also the cocoa pulp, it's thicker,
that can be used in mousses and things. Now, at the moment, the company that sells it, they only sell it in really big amounts. So really it's going into more industrial customers. So I think the smallest pulp we can get is like a 17-kilo bucket. Well, that's no good if you're a chef in a restaurant. But they are looking into a packaging plant in Ecuador where they're going to do 1-kilo tubs. So again, I don't think it will be this year, but next year you'll most probably see the cocoa pulp and the cocoa juice coming on the market. So yeah, so you heard it first. Because there will be lots of noise about it and lots of information all on Instagram and everything once it's being launched.
So the sort of fruity acidity taste to it, is that like a combination of the beans and the sort of new sugar, or like how does that come about?
No, so you know, if you eat a lychee or if you eat a rambutan, you know the white flesh around there, that's got that fruitiness, hasn't it? And lychee and a rambutan is very perfumed, whereas the cocoa flesh isn't so perfumed. It's more acidic and more fruitiness. It's not like a lychee where you get that real distinct lychee flavour coming through. This is more like acidic notes, fruity notes coming through it. So it's just natural because it is a fruit. You know, the Mayhems, way back when, they were the first ones that took the fruit and then they decided to ferment it because they were making a drink for the gods. So they were making a drink out of it. And, you know, if you low ferment it and you low roast it, you've got loads of antioxidants in there, loads of goodness, Claire, isn't there, in the cocoa beans? So it's a really healthy thing. It's only when we start adding sugars and things like that into it that it becomes slightly less healthy. So, so the cocoa pulp and the cocoa juices, they've always been used, but then we kind of forgot about it and we just made the chocolates. But now we are going full circle and we're going back to using the juices.
Is the whole fruit a blend of beans, or is it an origin?
Good question. The beans are from West Africa. So West Africa's a huge area, but that's where we're doing this first chocolate from. But that doesn't mean to say in the future that we wouldn't be doing whole fruit chocolates in Peru or, you know, wherever. So you would be getting slightly different flavors coming from there again. At the moment, there's loads of research as a company. I mean, we're a big company, so we're lucky we can do this. I mean, you heard about Ruby at the beginning of the week. That was a really big invention, the fact that we're actually taking the beans and we're managing to get a red cocoa mass out of the beans. And it's all this research that's going on in the fermenting area. So there'll be more chocolates come out with different times of ferment, different flavors come out. So it's not all about adding passion fruit puree into my cocoa butter and then I've got a passion fruit chocolate, because you're adding things in. We're looking at what can we get from that chocolate. What does that chocolate give us? There's 200 different flavored molecules that have been found in the cocoa bean. And that's the ones that we've recognized. They think there's even more than that in there. So if you play with those flavor molecules, what can you get? What flavors can you get coming out of that chocolate? So it's a really interesting area. So resourceful living. So it's our last slide, because we think this one again is coming. It's really coming through, the resourceful living, the mindfulness, the sustainability, the not over of consumption, thinking about the rest of the world as well. So resourceful living. How do we, which really the whole fruit really ties into. So if we go on to the next slide, Claire, I think it shows it. So yeah, so if you see in the bottom left-hand corner there, we've got the cocoa pod, and then we've got the whole fruit next to it. So 100% pure cocoa. So it's everything in there. Also, we're looking at, when we're looking at our chocolates, where do they come from? What is the food miles? Now, of course, chocolate is always going to have a lot of food miles in there, because we know that it's grown all the way around the equatorial belt. So it's got to travel. But then as a company, how can we cut down the food miles in other areas? So we just launched a chocolate this year called Stuart and Arnold. And that chocolate has got the milk powders coming from the UK. So our UK farmers make milk all the time, don't they? So why are we buying milk powders from somewhere else? So in this factory, we're making a UK brand of chocolate with UK milk powders in it. So therefore, we're cutting down where we can the mileage. We're also thinking about the packaging. So we always used to send out 10-kilo bags of chocolate in a box, in a cardboard box. We've now designed a bag that's really strong and really stacks well because they've looked at the shape and size. And so all of a sudden, we've got rid of all those cardboard boxes that used to hold all those 10-kilo bags of chocolate. And that will be coming down through the other chocolates as well. So we're trying to get rid of cardboard wherever we can. Here as well, in Banbury, we used to be a roasting house. So we used to bring all the beans from, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria to Banbury, and then we would process them. And when we processed them, we would be getting a lot of shell. So the cocoa shell had to go somewhere. So it was waste. So we couldn't do anything with it. It was going into landfill. So the company looked at it and thought, that's mad. We're not actually making a claim here. So we don't need the beans to go to Belgium like Belgium do because they're making a Belgian chocolate. So really, we could have the blocks of cocoa mass. So we get ton blocks of cocoa mass come over here to the UK. And actually, all those shells that came from around the edge of the beans have now been pushed down into little bricklets, and those shells are now firing the roasters in the origin countries. So therefore, we've cut down on that wastage that's coming into the country, but we've also found another use for it. So we're making sure that we're not only looking at the footprint, but we're actually trying to be very resourceful with what we've got. If you look on there as well, Oatly, Claire and I love Oatly. So if we're doing vegan desserts, that Oatly milk is really nice because of the amount of calcium it's got in there. It's got some thickness and some body to it. But as a company, you look at their packaging, they're really big. They will tell you how much CO2 they've used to make their products. And even on our website, if you go onto the Barry Callebaut website, you can put in a chocolate and you can find out the carbon footprint of that chocolate, because people are really becoming interested in this, and it makes their decisions, it sways their decisions. Is the company ethical? Is the company thinking about the CO2? And also, we're looking at, what are we doing as well as? So another thing that's really amazing about our company is 42% of the profits go back into education. So the Jacobs Foundation is a foundation that really looks into early years learning, and also teaching in the origin countries. And so all of that money goes to the Jacobs Foundation because they are the owners, the family Jacobs are the owners of the company, and they don't take any profits. They put it all straight back in. But again, it's not something that is ever shouted about or we talk about, but really it's something that's really important. What does that company stand for, and what is the background to that company? And then good to go. So we've spoken about all the good to go revolution that's happening at the moment. I mean, that is a massive trend. But all the packaging that goes with that, there's a lot more packaging involved if we're eating something outside of the cafe rather than in the cafe. In the cafe, they would give it to us on the plate or with a cup and saucer, and then that would get reused. But as soon as we take it away, it's in packaging. So what is that packaging? Is it biodiverse? Is it good? So again, it's something that we're looking at. And yes, the other one, Loving Earth, the biodegradable packaging. So some of the inks now even going on to the packaging on the outside. I mean, we've known that vegetables and flowers and all that lot give us the inks. The inks did go very chemical because we wanted that ink to last forever, 5-10 years on that box. We wanted it to stay there. But some of the vegetable inks are using again now, but they wouldn't necessarily last a long time. Sorry, I'm coughing. So yes, so that's all about our different, I'm going to cough again. Sorry.
So something that Julie didn't mention that was on the slide was, so it's about food waste. And so Julie's talked a lot about it with the whole fruit chocolate. And it's something, again, that's come to the foreground with talk about sustainability and things. And it's something that we're always looking at. And I imagine that you guys in college would be thinking about as well. What do you do with your waste food? And so again, it's another area of this sort of resourceful living. It's not just about our consumption, but it's about the waste products and what do we do with food that's left over. And it's trying to find a solution to that. And I don't think there is any one solution, but it's trying to be thoughtful about how can we use this? Can we make it into something else? Can we freeze it? Can we give it away? All those kinds of things.
There's a really good restaurant, isn't there, Claire, in Brighton called Silo. And if you look at that on their website, they are 100% waste free. So it's a really interesting case to look at. And they make sure anything that comes into their restaurant is it's not in packaging. So all the farmers will bring their vegetables to them in boxes, or the meat comes to them in a box that they reuse. So they never have waste. And even at the end of the meal, they try to make sure that the portion size isn't too big, because they don't want wastage in food. But any of the peelings or anything like that they can't use, they have a 24-hour composter at the back of the restaurant, and they put all the food waste into there, compost it, and then they give that compost back to the farmers who are growing their food. So it's a total 360 cycle. And I think, again, we're going to be seeing more and more innovation coming out around what we do with the wastage and how we can use it straight away. So, yes. So have we got any questions? Because that was our quick trip through the trends. Are they all feeling really full now because they've had the chocolate and they're all falling asleep?
I think some people can still taste the whole fruit. They were surprised by the intensity of the flavour, and it stayed with them for a while. Yeah,
it's totally different, isn't it? And we're not sure yet. Next week we're making mousses with it, so we'll let you know. But we're not really sure how it's going to react, because, we talked about acidicness can split ganaches and things like that. So how is that? Is it really acidic? Because it tastes quite acidic when you eat it. So is that really going to affect the other ingredients in our ganaches and our mousses? So it's a whole new area for us to play with. So there'll be a few mistakes, but, that's what happens when you're developing new products. But it is really exciting to see the next generation of chocolate coming through.
There was a good question. There's a good question that we laughed. So when we feed the cocoa pods to the cattle, do they make chocolate milk?
Wouldn't that be good? Yeah, because we really like the chocolate milk as well. Yeah, and Natasha, who's on the board, she's quite addicted to the chocolate milk. Actually, I'm letting you know all the secrets. So yeah, but you've been with us all week, and we hope that you've had a really good week, and we've managed to give you lots of ideas and show you lots of new techniques. There is lots more coming up, so we are doing more live streams. So keep an eye out on the Instagram page and the Facebook page, because Natasha will be putting all the details up on there. And if you have missed any of the live streams that we've done, you can go onto the Chocolate Academy website, and they're all down at the bottom. You can just go on there and click on the link, and you can watch the live streams that we've done before. And even though there was some at Christmas, don't think it's just really Christmassy. The techniques that we use there can be used throughout the year. So go on there and have a look at the different areas. And if there's anything that you think that you'd really like to see as well, Natasha often puts out on Instagram, is there anything you'd like us to do in our live streams? And we mean that. We've had some really good suggestions come through, so we're implementing some of them already. So if there was something that you wanted to see, like mousses or entremets or cakes, more of Claire's cookies, anything like that, just let us know, and we'll hopefully be able to implement that throughout the next year. At the moment, this is the only way we're managing to see people, but hopefully soon we've had that good news that the country will be opening up. I know you'll all be busy back in the kitchens and cooking and everything, but hopefully we can see you here in the Academy at some stage as well. So you'll be able to come over to Banbury and actually see the Chocolate Academy in action. So I want to say a really big thank you from all of the Academy team for all your time this week. And we just hope that you've really enjoyed it, and that you know that we're here, and let's stay in touch. Okay, thank you very much.